What's up, everybody? Man, it feels like it has been a while, but we are back. I am back. I hope that you had a great Christmas and a good New Year. I hope that you're getting back in the swing of things with going back to work, wherever you work, or just getting back into routine. I know that, man, it's been interesting for me and my family trying to get that routine back together. The kids were home for so long. We love our kids. It's always great to hang out with them and have fun with them. But man, there is no routine when all the kids are at home. And I'm sure you've had interesting, maybe fun, maybe great, maybe stressful challenges over the last several weeks, but we are back. I can't wait because this Sunday will be the first Sunday that Propel Church that we go back into our building and meet live for the first time in 2 weeks. We didn't meet on Christmas Day. We didn't meet on New Year's Day because we're in a movie theater and creates some challenges. It's great in many ways, but it creates some challenges. So today I wanted to just jump into a topic that you've probably heard a lot about over the last couple of weeks. You've probably thought a lot about over the last couple of weeks. Seems like everybody in January, especially the beginning of January, has New Year's resolutions. They have goals. We're doing vision boards. Um, we're doing all these things to try to impact our future, try to create a better future for ourselves, maybe for our family or our finances or our health or whatever it is. And I want to talk with you just really quickly about something that the Bible shows us and tells us is one of the keys, one of the really, really important things that impacts our future, and that's vision. Vision impacts your future. So I want to read from Proverbs chapter 29. I'm going to read in verse 18. It says this. It says, where there is no prophetic vision, this is the English Standard Version. Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law. So you've probably heard this in the King James Version, which just says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And that always came across to me as like super harsh. Like, man, if I don't have vision, I'm going to die. I love the English Standard Version. It gives you a little more context that goes a little bit deeper into this. It says, where there is no prophetic vision. Now, the prophetic vision here, don't let the churchy terms turn you off. It just means like this revelation, this understanding that God gives. Another way of saying this is the vision that God gives you. Where there is no vision that God gives you, if you have no plan, if you have no vision from God, then what you'll do is you'll cast off restraint. Now, that there's one word there in the original language which can be translated perish, which is where the King James gets it, but English Standard here says cast off restraint. There's other definitions that you could put here, which would be loosen or expose or dismiss. And so here you have this powerful, powerful Christian famous verse that tells us so much about why we set New Year's resolutions, why we set goals, and we don't follow them. We don't finish our year having completed all of our goals, having reached the places that we wanted to reach, and having fulfilled the vision that we had for that year. Sometimes it's because it's our own vision. Sometimes it's a vision, it's a goal, it's a resolution that's steeped in our own pride, our own arrogance, our own desires, or maybe even our own intellect. But other times it's because we didn't hold on to it. Now, there's a verse in Habakkuk that says to write the vision and make it plain so that he can run with it, right? So maybe that's a reason that we don't have it and don't continue it and don't finish our goals and our resolutions and all of that. But I think more times than not, it's because the visions that we have, the goals, the resolutions, they're not really from God. Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. So when that vision is not, I don't want to sound, spiritually spooky, but when God gives you a vision, man, it's hard to let go of that thing. Like you grab a hold of it, you're passionate about it, you can't escape it. You kind of begin to even see the world through that lens, and through that perspective of the vision that God's given you. And it's really hard to let go of. But when it doesn't come from God, we cast off restraint. We dismiss it. We loose it. We let go of it. We allow it to die. And I want to just talk again, just really briefly about this importance of vision and how this impacts our future. And the first part of allowing vision to impact your future is you need to pray and you need to ask God, like, what is it that you want me to do? What is it that you want me to see? More importantly, who is it that you want me to become? See, a lot of times when we create a vision, when we create a goal, especially around this time, we're saying like, here's what we want to become. Like, or here's what we want to do. We want to lose a certain amount of weight. We want to, on mine, I want to read a certain number of books, and we do all these goals that we just kind of come up with, and that's cool. But I think when we get prophetic vision, it'll include things that we do, but it's really more about who God wants you to become. So instead of the what am I going to do, it's the who am I going to be. So if you're setting your vision for the next 12 months or the next 12 years, I want you to really start with prayer, because it's a prophetic vision. It's a vision that comes from God that will allow us to not cast it off, to not lose our restraints, to not lose our boundaries. That's what'll hold us. And we need to get that first and foremost from God. Once we get it from God, we have to realize that this is a vision. This is a path. This is not just a goal, but it's deeper than that. It's more important than that. And so when we realize the weight of that, man, it'll help us in that day to day, striving towards becoming that and accomplishing those things and doing those things. So it comes from God. We get that through prayer. We need to realize that it is from God, so that when we take that, we know that it's not just, man, this is just, I just want to lose weight because I want to look better. I want to gain muscle, or I want to get more money because I just want to be more comfortable. Like, no, like there's a prophetic goal to this. There's a prophetic outlook. There's a purpose behind all of this. God gives you a vision so that he can accomplish his purposes in the earth. So it's bigger than you, and realizing that'll help you. I think the third thing is we need to start with the vision. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of times, we'll start with the I'm gonna listen, we just keep coming back to it, right? I'm gonna lose weight. I could definitely use that one this year. I think there's a lot of people that could say that, right? So I wanna lose weight. Well, let's start with the end in mind. Like, where are we going? I want to lose not just weight. I want to lose 20 pounds. And all right, that's the goal. That's the vision. Again, you pray this and God gives you the vision for this. But just as a natural example, now I need to know where I'm going in order to get there. And that sounds obvious, but I think too many times we set goals, we set New Year's resolutions. We want our futures to be impacted, but we don't even know where we're going. We don't even know what that future is. We don't even know what it looks like. Not in the sense of we have everything figured out, but we don't even know which direction we're trying to go. And so it's important when you get that vision from God to remind yourself, like, this is where I'm going. I'll never forget when, I felt what you would hear called as the call to pastor, right? Like when I began to sense that God wanted me to pastor, like that becomes kind of this vision, this goal, if you will. That's the point at which he had given the end of that. It's not the end of who I'm going to be or what I'm going to do, but as far as that goes, so what do I do in that time between I have the prophetic vision from God, but it hasn't yet happened? Like, that's the point where we have to make sure we're not casting off restraint, where we're not perishing, or that dream or that vision is not perishing, but we are doing what we need to do in between the point that you get it from God and the point that you experience it with God. And that's what we're talking about right here. And this vision impacts that, because I know that if God has asked me to pastor, then these other things that come up, I don't really need to entertain them in a sense of long-term goals and aspirations, because I already know. I already know where that end is. On the flip side of that, I already know there are things that I can be doing before I step into that vision, that calling, that end goal, that whatever you call it. There's things that I can be doing now to prepare me for that. So I can begin to, figure out how to speak better. I can improve my communication skills. I can improve my Bible study skills. I can start to learn how to put a message together. I can start to learn what it means to be led by the Spirit in a deeper way. And again, I'm just using this as an example, but this applies to whatever prophetic visions God's given you, whatever those things, not necessarily that you want to accomplish in 2023 or in your life, but the things that God wants you not just to do, but to become. And like, what can we do in that meantime? And then I would say another part of this, of how this vision impacts your future, is when you have that vision from God. Yes, you got to hold on to it. You got to do what your part to get yourself in position. But ultimately, you can step back and you can rest, because over and over and over throughout the scriptures, it is God's job to bring about the results. It's just our job to believe and obey. So as you have this vision for God, like, man, you don't have to make that happen. And that's good news. You can rest in that. And I don't mean rest in a lazy way. I mean rest in a confident faith way of, God, I'm going to do everything you ask me to do, and I'm going to trust you to bring about the results. So if my goal is to lose 25 pounds, man, I'm not just going to focus on 25 pounds. I'm going to focus on eating better. I'm going to focus on exercising. I'm going to focus on my part, and then I'm going to let you take care of the results. If your goal is to grow to a place, I don't know, where let's say you become a pastor or a full time in ministry, like right now today, I'm going to do the things I know to do to increase my spiritual awareness, my biblical literacy, my abilities and talents. And God, I'm going to let you open the doors and create the platforms. Whatever that is, when you have that prophetic vision from God, you don't just cast off the restraints, you don't just let it go, but you actually can do the opposite, where you can rest in it, knowing that if God said it, it is going to happen. You're not in charge of the results. You're just in charge of the faith and the obedience. And man, that is really, really good news. Proverbs chapter 29 actually talks a little bit more about this. In the next verse, in verse 19, it says, by mere words, a servant is not disciplined. For though he understands, he will not respond. Man, this kind of cut me to the core, because see, a lot of people think, pastors or people that are in full-time ministry, because they know better, they do better. But we face the same struggles that any other Christians face. And I'm always reminded when I think of this, of basketball, because I love basketball. Basketball's been a big part of my life for all my life. But what you see in basketball is great players are usually not great coaches, and great coaches were not great players. And like, there's this disconnect there. And I think spiritually, sometimes it can be the same way, in the sense of, just because you know what to do, even just because here in Proverbs saying you say the right things, doesn't mean that you're disciplined, doesn't mean that you actually do it. So just because you know what you need to do to lose 25 pounds this year doesn't mean that you'll actually do it. Just because you say you're going to be disciplined, just because you say you're going to eat healthy and you're going to do this and do that, doesn't mean that you actually will do it. And that's a challenge. Like, that's a challenge. A lot of this, yes, our job is to believe and obey, and God takes care of the results, but faith without works is dead. And a lot of what we're saying right now, going into a new year, setting these goals and these resolutions, and like, we have to have a vision from God, and then we have to do our part. You can't just rest in a sense of, God, I'm not going to do anything, and you have to do everything. No, God wants to work with you. He wants you to take the step, and then he blesses that step. It's kind of cliche at this point in Christian circles anyway, but like, you do the natural and he adds his super to your natural. Like, that's the picture. That's the formula. So going into this year, man, get a prophetic vision. Don't just get a regular, goal. The goals are cool. They're good. Like if God didn't tell you to lose 25 pounds, but you just want to lose 25 pounds, there's nothing wrong with that. But just realize and recognize that it's easier to cast off restraint of that because it's not a prophetic vision. It's not something that God is speaking to. And that's okay. Just understand what you need to do. Just because you say you're going to be disciplined, just because you have the words doesn't mean that you actually are. You got to put some action to your faith. But get that prophetic vision from God. That's what's more important. That's what's heavier. That's what's weightier. And then take comfort in knowing that God is going to come through. He's going to make it happen. You believe, you obey, and he will take care of the results. You do your part, he'll do his part. And I think when we do that, we'll have a greater expectancy. We'll have a greater level of just holding tightly to what God has said to us. And we'll be able to look back in a month, 6 months, 12 months, and maybe everything hasn't happened because God doesn't work on our time frames, but you'll be able to see that you have had discipline, that you have begin to put things in place to be able to make these things happen. There's a lot of natural things that go along with this too, as far as how vision impacts your future and the motivation and the habits that need to be created and how to create those habits, and all of those types of things are great and they can help you. But without a prophetic vision, the people cast off their restraint. And if we cast off our restraint, if we have no more restraint, if we have no more discipline, doesn't matter what your goal is, doesn't matter what your resolution is, it doesn't even matter what your vision from God is. If you don't have discipline and restraint, you're not going to be able to fulfill that, at least not long term. It's just the way God created us and created everything. But the opposite of that is true. We can have discipline. We can hold tight to what God has said to us, and we can believe and obey until it actually comes all the way to pass. So, man, I hope that this helped you. There's obviously a lot more we could do with this and say with this. This could be a whole sermon series. This could be an entire months worth of videos and encouragement. But man, I appreciate you guys. It looks like some of you, at least on Facebook, have jumped in, and man, it's always good to see your names and your faces. We miss so many of y'all that we've known in Texas over the last 10 years, and being back here in Georgia has been amazing, and getting to know so many people here and getting connected has been awesome. But Propel Church, the church that we moved here to start, is 1 year old, and we get to celebrate that this Sunday. And man, we are so excited. We made it a year. In many ways, that year went by super fast, and in other ways, it was like, man, that feels like a lifetime ago that we started this church. And it's not at all like I thought it would be after 12 months, but it's been so good. And there's so many stories of what God has done that just confirm that this is what we were supposed to do, and these are the people that God wants us to impact now. So thank you guys so much for your support and your prayers over the last 12 months. We can't wait to celebrate. If you're in the area, we'd love to have you join us this Sunday, 10 a.m. at NCG Movie Theater in Ackworth, just outside of Atlanta, just right on the Kennesaw line. It's going to be super fun. We got a super fun Sunday planned for you guys to celebrate, not us, not me and my wife and our team, but like to celebrate you, because you guys, whether you're here or whether you're far, you guys have helped make this happen. And so we're so thankful for that. Man, I love you guys. I thank you for watching. We'll try to be back on next week and try to keep this consistent with this little midweek recharge, a little propelling towards Jesus in the middle of your week. Hopefully this helped. God bless you. Thank you. We'll see you soon.